During your Senate confirmation hearings, you repeatedly denied having any involvement as a private citizen in the firing of FBI officials who engaged in the prosecution against January 6 insurrectionists, the violent rioters who beat and killed Capitol police officers, and whom you referred to as political prisoners. Since then, multiple whistleblowers have come forward, and we know that you likely committed perjury. At the same hearing, you claimed you were not familiar with Stu Peters, an anti-Semitic Holocaust denier, despite the fact that you appeared on Mr. Peters' podcast 8 separate times. 8 times, and you claimed not to recall. Mr. Patel, my second question is, should we worry more about your memory or your veracity?
We should worry more about your lack of candor. You're accusing me of committing perjury. Tell the American people how I broke the law and committed a felony. Have the audacity to actually put the facts forward instead of lying for political banter so you can have a 20-second donation hit.
The answer is both. I believe that
the answer is you're failing, not me.
I reclaim my time.
Go ahead.
The confrontation between Democrat Madeleine Dean and FBI Director Kash Patel just reached explosive levels at today's hearing. Dean went straight for the jugular, accusing Patel of turning the FBI into his personal political weapon. You can literally see the panic in Patel's face as she drops the P word, perjury, suggesting he lied under oath in previous testimony. This isn't just another partisan squabble. This is about the very soul of American law enforcement. Before we dive into the full story, comment where you're watching from, and don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. The tension between Dean and Patel reveals the dangerous fault lines forming in our justice system, as congressional oversight clashes with an agency allegedly going rogue under controversial leadership.
And thank you, Mr. Patel, for your testimony and for being here today. I've been looking at the president's 120-word FBI budget request, the so-called skinny, I'll call it Ozempic request, that states that, quote, the undoing of the weaponization of the FBI is one of the administration's top priorities. The weaponization of the FBI is something that deeply concerns me. It should concern all of us. And yet, since taking office, President Trump has been on a revenge tour. He has targeted individuals, universities, law firms, with executive orders to cut them out or to make them come under his will. He has used ICE to disappear U.S. citizens without due process, and he's fully ignored a unanimous Supreme Court order, and then over the weekend wasn't sure if he was obligated to uphold the Constitution of the United States. In your book, your recent book, Government Gangsters, you include an appendix with a list of names that people have referred to as an enemies list. Now, I know you will claim it's just an appendix, not an enemies list. So let's focus on how the president sees it, on what the president calls it. And you proudly display his quote on the front cover of your book. The president calls this a brilliant roadmap, a blueprint. And I have not even raised your storied children's book, The Plot Against the King. It concerns me how many people from this blueprint have been targeted with executive orders and FBI investigations. The FBI cannot be weaponized, and under your leadership, it has been nothing but a weapon alongside the president to go after the president's perceived opponents, to stifle dissent and free speech. A few weeks ago, as we saw through a social media post that you quickly deleted, the FBI arrested a judge in Wisconsin for correctly asking ICE officials if they had a judicial warrant instead of an administrative warrant, which they did not have. Despite this judge following the law, on the morning of April the 25th, the FBI arrested the judge in an escalation of the weaponization of the FBI under your leadership. Let me be clear. A functioning democracy does not lock up judges. I am gravely concerned about the utter lack of independence of the FBI and its weaponization under your leadership. I am concerned that the president is using this book, your book, as a blueprint, as he has said. It's a blueprint for revenge. And I am concerned that your eagerness, a childlike giddiness to carry out the president's revenge tour, you've shown yourself to be unserious in your statements before you were sworn in and some after. You've shown yourself unfit to lead this important agency. I was an impeachment manager for President Trump's second impeachment. It was a sad, solemn duty. And so I wanted to ask you about that. Mr. Patel, as you and the president continue to weaponize and investigate his perceived enemies, as you follow this blueprint, when can I, a former impeachment manager, expect the FBI at my door?
Ma'am, you want to know who was targeted by a weaponized FBI? Me. You want to know how and why?
Well, you
want to know what I'm doing to
maybe need
fix
write a
it?
book about that. Let me move on.
Well, you should
Page
read the
topics.
book because there's no enemies
So-
list on that book.
So
There are
you-
people that violated their constitutional obligations and their duties to the American people.
That's good. You
And they
gave
were
them due
rightly
process.
called out.
I'm
And
changing
you should
topics.
give that book to every one of your constituents so they can read about it.
I won't be doing that.
That's their loss.
During your Senate confirmation hearings, you repeatedly denied having any involvement as a private citizen in the firing of FBI officials who engaged in the prosecution against January 6 insurrectionists, the violent rioters who beat and killed Capitol police officers, and whom you referred to as political prisoners. Since then, multiple whistleblowers have come forward, and we know that you likely committed perjury. At the same hearing, you claimed you were not familiar with Stu Peters, an anti-Semitic Holocaust denier, despite the fact that you appeared on Mr. Peters' podcast 8 separate times. 8 times. And you claimed not to recall. Mr. Patel, my second question is, should we worry more about your memory or your veracity?
We should worry more about your lack of candor. You're accusing me of committing perjury. Tell the American people how I broke the law and committed a felony. Have the audacity to actually put the facts
then
forward
the answer is
instead of
both.
lying for political banter so you can have a 20-second
answer
donation
is-
hit.
The answer is both. I believe that the
The
men and
answer is
women of
you're failing, not
I
me.
reclaim my time.
Go ahead.
Mr. Patel, I believe that the members of the FBI, and I know many of them, many retired, 38,000 people, as you say, it's a little less than that now, deserve the very best, deserve extraordinary independence, deserve freedom from the fears of being investigated, the freedom of coming forward to make sure they're doing their job. And I'll end with this, that I think it's interesting that in your proposal today, you find yourself at a gulf of difference between you and the president. I wonder how you will resolve that. Will you go to the president and say, we need $11.2 billion, not what you cut out of here? You're asking for more than $1 billion than the president's request. Are you going to go to the president and straighten out that gulf?
I'll do what I've always done and represent the American people, defend this country, and make sure the Constitution is always upheld and the FBI is never weaponized. Maybe you should do the same.
So you agree with the president when he says he doesn't know if he should uphold his constitutional duty?
If you want to just keep putting words in my mouth, the TV cameras are outside.
Madeleine Dean just destroyed FBI Director Kash Patel in what can only be called a congressional massacre. What started as a budget hearing exploded into a full takedown of the Trump administration's apparent weaponization of America's top law enforcement agency. Dean didn't just question Patel's budget. She questioned his very fitness to lead the FBI. She zeroed in on his controversial book, with that appendix the president praised as a brilliant roadmap. Dean called it what it really is, a blueprint for political revenge. The FBI director essentially wrote an enemies list, and the president is celebrating it. When confronting Patel about past testimony, Dean didn't suggest inconsistencies. She flat out accused him of perjury regarding January 6th prosecutions. The panic was visible as she systematically dismantled his credibility, pointing to the arrest of a sitting judge and targeting of political opponents as proof of an agency that's lost its way. Dean highlighted the proposed $545 million in FBI cuts, asking why slash national security funding unless there's another agenda at play. At a time of heightened risk to our nation at home and abroad, they want to cut, she pointed out, calling their justifications absolute nonsense. The most revealing moment came when Dean flipped the script on weaponization accusations. They are weaponizing through Kash Patel, who is wholly unfit for this job. This isn't about protecting the FBI from political influence. It's about ensuring political control over it. She connected these cuts to a broader pattern. A 40% reduction in NIH funding, cuts to food assistance for seniors, and attempts to shutter the Department of Education. And for what?
Why?
As Dean
What's your
exposed,
thoughts?
$4.5 trillion in tax cuts for billionaires. This wasn't just about budgets. It was about whether our institutions serve the people or powerful interests. The Dean-Patel confrontation reveals what happens when law enforcement becomes a political weapon rather than an independent guardian of justice. Stay informed on these crucial developments. Subscribe to Unbox News now.